Out of order.
Good evening, listeners. Good evening to you. Thank you so much for staying with us here on.
Sims Jason, I see your comment. Yeah? I see your comment.
No, man. No, man.
Damn out of order.
Listeners, it's time for the nation's business. I'm Ricardo Brooks.
I'm Cliff Hughes.
And we're going to the Western Parish of St. James. It's recorded 4 murders up to January 25 this year. This represents a 66% decline when compared to the 12 the 12 murders recorded for the same period last year. Head of the St. James Division, Superintendent Aaron Samuels, says it's a good start on the road to keeping homicides below the 100 mark for 2025.
Over the years, St. James has been dubbed the most murderous police division. Superintendent Samuel says the strategic imposition of zones of special operations have contributed to a decline in major crimes in the parish.
Last year, the zones of special operation in Norwood, we had no murders in Norwood for the period. In Mount Salem, we had a little issue which was dealt with, and we are seeing low figures within that space. And based on the trajectory this year, we are projecting that we'll have a good year as well in both zones.
Superintendent Aaron Samuels, the commanding officer for the St. James Police Division. He joins us now. Good evening, Superintendent.
Good evening. How are you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
All right. Let me start with the gang situation in St. James, because for quite some time that was a large part, significant part of the challenge you were facing in the parish. Where are you now in terms of eradicating the gangs?
All right. We have done some significant work over the years in terms of arresting quite a few of the gangsters, displacing them. Some unfortunately challenged us, and we defended ourselves well in those situations. But what we have, I believe, done is stem the issue of persons getting the youngsters joining the gangs. We have done quite a bit of work with our safe school system, and recognizing that the gangs don't pay. We are working hard to ensure that the youngsters recognize that, it's easier to get an education, look at a job. We are focused on ensuring that the main income earner within the parish, which is the tourism sector, that we bring the murders down so that we can get that as well growing, so that persons can receive more gainful employment from the sector as well. So there are quite a few things that we're doing that are eating away at the whole issue of gangs within not just St. James, but for the whole Irwan, as we are focused right now on the entire Irwan, bringing things under control as a team.
How do you effectively make that argument to the youngsters, considering, we've heard the reports of the prevalence of lottery scamming in the Western region?
Right, lottery scamming it's there, but based on the experience that they are seeing in terms of persons who have been engaged in lottery scamming, and it's twinned to the gangster lifestyle. They're realizing that the outcome is not a positive one for a lot of these persons, whilst it is as well lucrative, and they're seeing where they can earn. What we want to ensure that they recognize is that there are consequences for actions. The Lottery Scam Task Force falls on the CTOC. Apart from the work done by the division, they have been doing quite a bit of work in terms of going after the persons involved in lottery scamming, and they have made a lot of arrests, and a lot of persons have been, extradited to face the crimes overseas, face the law for the crimes they have committed in other jurisdictions.
So is it that you have broken the back of that network of criminals?
I wouldn't want to say we have broken the back, but we have made significant strides in reducing the prevalence of it.
So you don't see as much of the proceeds as you once did that were able to fuel the acquisitions of arms, ammunition, motor vehicles, bribing people?
I think it's still around, but not to a great extent as before. As I said, we displaced a lot of the gangsters and a lot of lottery scammers. Unfortunately, they move to other parishes and you'll see upticks all over. So for Area 1, what we have done, we are focusing on dealing with crime on an area level. So I'm not just focusing on St. James. We're looking at impacts Trelawney, Hanover, Westmoreland. So all the commanders, including led by ACP Glenford Miller, we have come together to focus on ridding crime within the area. So we know that when we push in St. James, they'll push to Westmoreland or they'll push to Hanover or push to Trelawney. So each divisional commander will continue to inform each other and push so that we can get them out of Area 1. So unfortunately, we might see an uptick in other spaces, but we are very confident that the work that we're doing will see some decline in incidents of both lottery scamming and murders within the area.
Superintendent, the murder tally in St. James climbed to 100 and then above 100. It hit 100 something like 15, 20 years ago, I was reading. And you set a target of bringing below 100 in 2025. You think the current strategies and the resources that you have, that's feasible?
I believe that we're able to do it. We would not, as a division, come up with this as our target without believing that the men and women on the ground are motivated and are ready to take that on. Albeit we are supported by our area team, we are supported by specialized operations. Our greatest partner in this is the JDF 2GR led by Colonel Lysite. We are getting some good support, and the area what we're looking at is the support from the area level. We are looking not just to have that kind of a reduction in St. James, but in the entire area. So we are confident with that sort of approach, and we'll be able to meet the target. What we find is that we would get some murders that really would belong to Westmoreland or belong to Hanover, or belong to Trelawney. But when we push as an area right across, we'll be able to ensure that we have that sort of a major reduction right across Area 1. If you look at the figures, you will see it's not just St. James. Westmoreland has only recorded one murder since the start of the year. Hanover has recorded 2, and St. James 4. So we are not looking at individual parishes, but we are looking at bringing the fight to the criminals across Area 1, because we are so intertwined in terms of crime within the area, in terms of the gangs, the connections, how the fluidity of movement, that we are ensuring that we cut down their ability to move and their ability to commit crimes. So there's a lot being done that will allow not just St. James, but the entire area to achieve its target.
Do you think you'll need the emergency or enhanced powers of the ZOZO or the state of emergency to assist with this target, or you think the ordinary policing strategies will get you there?
The zones of special operation is a staple that is being used both in Westmoreland and St. James, and we are both seeing major reductions within those spaces. In Norwood last year, we had no murders, and in Mount Salem we had 1 murder. So we believe, compared, if you look at the historic data, there were multiple murders prior to the launch of the zone of special operation. But I believe the work that we are doing with the community itself is what makes a difference. But the zone of special operation gives us that ability in the whole period, especially to work on that relationship, work on how we do policing itself in this space, so that we can have some long-term changes to both the physical and social structure within these communities.
So let me ask you, Superintendent Samuels, is St. James still the epicenter of crimes in Western Jamaica?
Well, if you look at the figures, we're at 4 murders, Hanover at 2, and Westmoreland at 1. Naturally, based on the commercial activities within the space, the population density, as any large city, you will find that incidents will happen. In terms of Western Jamaica, we would be the bigger power within that space, so we'll have more incidents happening in St. James. However, one title that I am willing to get rid of is the title of being the most murderous parish or most murderous division in the country. That is something that I don't aspire to be. I used to run and I like to win, but I don't want to win that one.
And, you know, it is the most influential parish in Western Jamaica, without a doubt. Yes, in terms of commerce, politics, and somehow St. James has developed over the years a reputation for being the incubator for any new criminal schemes that come into the island of Jamaica. And it was also famous for the 19 inner city communities ringing Montego Bay. Do you still have problems with those inner city communities, or have we largely reduced the fertile ground space for crime and criminality?
All right. I won't make pronouncements to say that we have rid the space of anything. I'm a realist. There is criminal activity that will take place. However, what we are ensuring is that we don't create that environment for it to grow. What we want to do is to ensure that we have that constant decline, that the new normal for St. James will not be the high murder rates that we're used to. And it's not just, as I said, we're not focused on just St. James in the West. We're focused on the area, because based on what transpires, you will have crimes that start in St. James that the outcome happens in another parish. So our intelligence is of such that we are ensuring that we don't have that incubating process where we have crimes coming from one division happening in the next. So we are trying our best to ensure that we don't go back to those days where you have, even though we have these communities, that the crimes that come from them impacts the country in that negative way.
What's the support like that you get from the residents of these communities that Cliff mentioned just now? Are they cooperative generally?
For the most, we have pushed our community policing efforts. We have a very robust team, and they are very engaging with the community. Coming from community development, community police, there's a lot that I'm seeing that we're doing that is encouraging the members of the public to work with us. I believe persons are also encouraged by the professionalism of the police officers and also the way how we are engaging them on a regular basis. We are out there in the streets. We launched last year our Beat Officer Patrol Division. So in the township, you are seeing the police officers. We have our coordinated roadblocks that's taking place where you see the police officers on the street. And what makes a difference is the quality of the interaction that we have within the spaces with everybody. So I believe that if we, as the transformation process takes place, if persons can see, feel, hear, and experience the transformation, that we'll get more support from the residents.
So you no longer have the challenge of some of the youngsters thinking, can't trust the Babylon.
You won't escape that. But, if we win persons over one person at a time, you will forever have the whole notion of police and thief. So it's not something that we'll escape. But what we try to do is to ensure that from as early as possible, we engage them within the schools. We are setting up a lot more police youth clubs in schools. We have programs such as the Joan Pilot training program within the schools that are having police officers interact with students, them seeing them in a different light, based on our church service or community engagements. We recently started our own divisional band, and we are going to be taking that to the streets at some of our community meetings, and just finding creative ways to have that engagement process being done with the community members.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Aaron Samuels. He is the commanding officer for the St. James Police Division one of the toughest police divisions in the island. They are now reporting that between January 1 and 25 this year, there's been a 66% drop in murders compared to the same 4-week period last year. And wouldn't we love if they can keep it at that percentage decline? 66%. Yes? 4 murders so far up to January 25, as against 12 in the same period last year.
The target for 2025, below 100.
Yeah, and we're just asking for all the members of the public to come on board. It only serves everyone best if we can keep the numbers down. It will drive economic opportunities. It will bring that safety and security feeling that everybody wants. And most of all, at the end of the day, we won't be considered the most murderous division or parish. We want to get rid of that title. We want it to be the best parish, the safest parish. That's what we're aiming for.
Yeah.
Okay.
All the best. Keep up the good work, Superintendent.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good. This is Nationwide at 5.